I think I honestly went down front to get out of children's church. I didn't want to be in children's church at that time. And when I got into the youth ministry, one of my first youth retreat, and started hearing all these people sharing their testimonies and their stories about what God's doing in their life, and I started to know then there was a void there. There was something not right. But then I remember vividly when I was 16 years old, and God hit me upside the head with that, I'm right here. You need to accept me as your Lord and Savior and quit messing around, because, I know you're a good boy. I know you're a good kid, but you're lost as can be. Because as good of a kid as I was, not running around or causing my parents any shame or things, I was as lost as the worst sinner was. And so from the moment I realized, it was probably 6 months that I struggled with that decision, knowing that I needed to make things right and give my life to Christ. And I got to thinking back to when I was 8 years old. And I never prayed and asked Christ to come into my heart. At 8 years old, I joined the church. I became a wet Baptist. I was baptized, but never prayed and asked Christ to come into my heart. Never made it personal with me. And so you'd think anybody with any kind of common sense or any kind of wits about him would know they need to take care of it. And I did, but I was scared, because I was afraid to step up in front of this church of all these people and these adults that had been praying with me and working with me. I mean, I'd led other boys and girls to Christ myself. I'd worked at boys' camps. And so it got so bad that I would sit there and I would say, okay, I was singing in the adult choir at that time, 16 years old. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, if we sing this many verses of this invitation hymn, then I'll go down front and give my life to Christ. Or I'd start to make other excuses like, well, my grandparents aren't here, and it'd be real special to them if they were here when I made that, that decision. Well, every time I would leave the worship service on Sunday mornings without making that decision, it just felt like I had a ton of concrete and bricks just right on my shoulders. So one Sunday, months later, I'm there in the old choir, and we're singing Just As I Am, probably, one of those invitation hymns. And all I knew is that at that point in time, if I did not give my life to Christ, if I did not make it right, make it personal, make it real, that my heart felt like it was just going to jump out of my chest. So I walked down the steps, from the choir loft down the steps to the altar. New pastor, Pastor Bill Sullivan, was there at the time. And he turned around and he stuck his hand out at me. And I remember walking right by him with his hand outspoken, and I knelt at the altar. Because it wasn't between me and him. It wasn't between me and anybody else. It was just between me and the Lord. My high school Sunday school teacher came, knelt down, prayed with me. He didn't know what was going on. And as I got done, I just kind of looked at him. I said, Paul, I just gave my life to Christ. And he was thrilled. A little shocked, I could tell, but thrilled. So I stood up, and we went and talked to Pastor Bill and everything. And then he prayed with me and spun me around. And again, these people much older now came and hugged on me and everything. And I was so afraid that they were going to be mad at me because I'd been lying to them all this time. But that was just something the devil was trying to trick me over, and he did for a while, for 8 years. I made a profession of faith or some decision when I was 8 years old. It's real now. It's true now.
How great the love of Jesus Christ. On the cross of Calvary, the blood was shed that pardons me. No longer bound, no more defeat. How great the